So welcome everybody to the next in our series of virtual consulting offices. My name is Diana Sinton. I'm a project manager for iGuide and often the host for our Wednesday sessions. As a reminder, this is a regular Zoom meeting, so you're in control of your own microphone. We ask that you keep your microphone muted. During the presentation itself, we will have an opportunity for question and answer and discussions after that, at which point you'd be welcome to unmute yourself and pose your question to our presenters. These sessions are being recorded, and once the files are processed, we will have them up on our iGuide VCO webpage where you can find dozens and dozens of recordings from our previous sessions. We're excited today for this presentation. It's a group of people who are one of the winners from our 2025-26 Spatial AI Challenge, and we are super excited to hear about their work. You can also go to the iGuide platform and see some of their digital materials as well. So with that, I will stop my sharing of the screen here and turn it over to you, Jayani.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. It's all yours.
So let me see. It's okay here. So hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'd like to start by thanking the iGuide team for this recognition and for organizing this seminar. And thank you all for joining us today. So my name is Jayani. I'm a PhD candidate at Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil, and a visiting fellow at Harvard University in the Center of Geographical Analysis. So today I will be presenting our work, GeoLocate, Spatial Modeling of Marketing Entry Success. And I'm also pleased to my co-authors, my advisor, the Professor Vinicius Bray, and Devika Jain. So to begin, I would like to share the main motivation behind this project. So opening a new business is always a risk decision. About 25% of new business failure within the first year, and that number rises to nearly around 50% within the first 5 years. One of the main reasons is that there simply isn't enough demand for the products or service being offered. In other words, many businesses struggle because they enter a market where customer needs are not well matched. This is why understanding marketing entry decisions is so important. So what exactly do we mean by marketing entry? Marketing entry is a strategic movement into a new or adjacent markets, and these markets can be understood as product, service, or even geographical location. So now that we establish what marketing entry means, the next question is how this phenomenon has been studied in the literature. Because marketing entry is inherently multidisciplinary. Different fields have approached these questions from different perspectives. In market, for example, research is primarily focused on assessing market potential and market attractiveness, helping firms to determine where and when to introduce new products or services. In entrepreneurship and management, the emphasis shifts to how uncertainty and risk influence marketing entry decisions. And in economics, the focus is on marketing structure and market dynamics, with particular attention to how competition and uncertainty shape entry behavior. However, despite these valuable perspectives, we still have a limited understanding of how spatial context influences marketing entry success. So this led us to understand how can the integration of these dimensions uh, can improve the identification of successful areas for marketing entry. So the main goal of this project is to propose a spatial AI framework using Bayesian spatial modeling to identify successful locations for marketing entry. So to answer these questions, we developed a spatial modeling framework. Now, I would like to walk you through how we conducted the study. So before to discussing the modeling approach, let me first introduce the empirical context of our study. Our primary case of study is the state of São Paulo, the most populous state in Brazil, and the country's largest economic hub. Because of its consumer markets and economic diversity, it provides an ideal setting for studying marketing entry decisions. So to evaluate how well our approach generalizes, we also validate the model using data from Rio Grande do Sul. Although it is smaller than São Paulo, Rio Grande do Sul plays a key economic role in the southern Brazil and differs substantially in its culture and geographical characteristics. So this allows us to assess whether our approach remains effective across distinct market contexts. So the entire analysis follows a sequential workflow with 5 main steps. I will briefly introduce each step and then discuss the main results. So the first step was the data preparation. Here we performed the standard pre-process tasks, including scaling, inputting missing values, and preparing the data for modeling. So to define our target, we used business records from the previous 6 years and computed the proportion of active business in relation to the total of business, that is the sum of active and failed business. Once the target was defined, we moved to the second step, that is the selecting the predictors. For this, we employed a Bayesian Lasso approach with our 27 initial predictors, and these predictors was from different source, for example, satellite images from Sentinel-2 of Google, road infrastructure of OpenStreetMap, and some demographic variables. So after run the Bayesian Lasso, the model retaining 3 key predictors, that is income, distance to the capital, and urbanization. These predictors satisfy our predefined credible interval criteria, provide evidence of their importance in explaining marketing entry success. So after identifying the most relevant predictors, we moved to the model estimation stage. Then we conducted a prior predictive check and estimated our main model, the Bayesian spatial model, based on the BYM2 specification. So the prior predictive check allowed us to assess whether the prior assumptions were reasonable before fitting the model to the observed data. So the prior predictive check showed that the model generated probabilities across the entire range, including values closer to 0 and 1. This confirms that our priors were sufficiently flexible to represent a broad range of possible outcomes. After establishing the model specification, we can now examine the main results. So the Bayesian spatial models show strong convergence and meaningful spatial structure. Our estimated spatial dependence parameter, the rho, was approximately 85%, indicating a strong influence of spatial patterns on business survival across locations. And these finds highlight that where a business enters, the market matters, as nearby areas tend to share similar patterns of business success and failure. So, of course, beyond the estimating the model, it is essential to evaluate whether these results are reliable. Therefore, we conducted several robustness checks. We evaluate predictive performance through the PC's live-and-out comparison and spatial K-found cross-validation. Then we assessed the model fit using posterior predictive checks and examining residual spatial patterns, and finally conducted sensitivity analysis across different sectors and locations. Here, we first compared our spatial model against a non-spatial benchmark model, uses the PC's live-and-out comparison, and we evaluated whether incorporating spatial dependence improved the predictive performance. So the results shows that the Bayesian spatial model performs better across all metrics, providing substantial gains in out-of-sample predictive performance. Here, we compare the estimated parameters from the benchmark model with those from our spatial model. One important difference is the effect of the distance to the capital. In the spatial model, this effect becomes stronger and more negative, but also presents greater uncertainty, suggesting that part of this relationship is influenced by spatial dependence. While the PSIS live-and-out comparison evaluates predictive performance, we also wanted to understand how well the model generalizes across different geographical areas. So for this reason, we applied a spatial cathode cross-validation, and the spatial K-fold cross-validation also show a strong predictive performance with moderate variability across region. Most folds achieved relative low errors, indicating that the model generalizes well across different geographical contexts. But the fold 2 presented higher errors, mainly due to the presence of São Paulo city. This is an extreme case in terms of business concentrations, because the city has around 2 million of activity business, compared to the average of the approximately 90,000 business across the whole state. So in addition, here we can see the posterior predictive check that indicates the model can generate replicated data sets consistent with the observed data, supporting the adequacy of the model specification. So next, we assess the residual spatial dependency using Moron's I. The results provide further empirical validation, showing no significant remaining spatial autocorrelation and suggesting that the model adequately captured the underlying spatial structure. So finally, we investigate whether the model remained robust when applied to different contexts. For this purpose, we conducted a domain sensitivity analysis across two sectors, retail and food and beverage, and validate the model using data from Rio Grande do Sul. In all scenarios, the model maintained strong predictive performance, demonstrating robustness across sectoral and geographical contexts. So an important find is that the model not only captures uncertainty across different domains, but also allows the estimated effects to vary according to the specific contexts. For example, the effect of distance to the capital changes the signal in the Rio Grande do Sul. One possible explanation is related to recent regional events, such as the floods that affect areas closer to the capital, although further investigation is needed to better understand this relationship. Overall, these results suggest that the model can adapt to different market environments while preserving its predictive accuracy. So finally, the shrinkage diagnostics provide additional evidence of the model reliability. They show how the posterior distributions adapt across different samples, balancing prior information and observed data while appropriately account for uncertainty. And after validating the model, we can now move from statistical evaluation to practical application. So the final output of our model is represented through three main visualizations. First, the opportunity map identifies areas with higher predictive probabilities of success, while the second risk map highlights locations where business face higher risks of failure. Finally, the third visualization, we grouped the areas into four main zones according to their level of predicted success and risk. For example, the safe opportunity zone represents regions with high success probability and low risk. These areas may represent attractive opportunities for entrepreneurs considering new market entry. In contrast, the critical zones represent areas with lower success probabilities and higher risk. While these locations may be more challenging for entrepreneurs, they can also become important targets for policymakers, as example, seeking to promote regional development and reduce market inequalities. So before discussing the future directions, let me summarize the key takeaways of this work. Our results highlight the importance of incorporate spatial structure into market entry modeling, and the model reveal a strong spatial component in business survival patterns. While the main predictors were income, distance to the capital, and urbanization, and finally, compared to non-spatial approaches, the spatial model achieved better predictive performance and captured local dynamics across different regions and sectors. So regarding the main limitation, the first one is the municipal level aggregation, which may hide local heterogeneity within cities. And additionally, the current framework does not capture other important mechanisms, such as digital connectivity, mobility patterns, and logistic interactions, which may influence the marketing dynamics. So looking ahead, we are extending the model to the entire country using a hierarchical approach across states, cities, and census tracts. And we also move from aggregated business level indicators to a firm level perspective, predicting the survival of individual business across different time horizons. In this case, these extensions will allow us to capture more granular patterns of marketing entry and business survival. So, if you are interested in exploring the project further, you can access our notebook through the QR code on the slide. And we have made the complete code and data available on the iGuide platform for reproducibility and future research. So finally, I would like to acknowledge and thank you all the institutions and teams that supported the development of this project. Thank you very much for your attention and for the opportunity to share our work with you today. I would be happy to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. Thank you so much.
Nicely done. That was really nice to hear you describe that. I'll put into the chat the platform link that people would be able to find this notebook, and along with that form. I know. Are there any questions from anyone in the audience? And while we're waiting for anyone who'd like to either, raise your hand and unmute yourself to ask a question, or feel free to pop a question into the chat space. So just to start the discussion a little bit, it's really interesting to see this deployed there across that range of the city. Have you, and I guess this is part of my question for universities that in Brazil that work with city data or work in specific areas, have you ever had any conversations with people at the city level to communicate about this type of research with them, like business, like commerce?
Actually, we have a platform that we tend to release in the future. It's the Atlas of Opportunity. They can help you with this. But we tend to release these results in this platform in the future.
Oh, I like that, the term for that, the Atlas of Opportunity. Can you say more about that?
Great.
I'm gonna jump in. So I
Sure.
just pasted.
Oh,
Thank you,
excellent.
Diana. So this is in beta version. It's not launched yet. It's in English and in Portuguese. So I believe everyone here will be able to navigate on the landing page and also on the Atlas itself, which is a geospatial platform to recommend people where to open new business, where are the best opportunities, and also the probability of success of this new business enterprise. The idea of this project is to be a free platform to help people who don't have any business-related knowledge and who do not have money to pay for marketing and research. So it's a way of democratizing the scientific knowledge of business, geospatial AI, and also entrepreneurship. So Jaine's PhD dissertation is targeted at helping this project. We have also other students, and hope, I think Devika is on the room as well. So Devika has been a great partner of this project from Harvard, PGA. So thank you, Devika, for being such a kind partner. And we also have partnership with MIT, the University of Cambridge, Sabancı University in Turkey, and Northeastern in the US, in the Boston area, and other universities in Brazil, local universities. So the idea is to make this reproducible work to help people to make better decisions in real life. And answering your question then, so we have contacting local government and institutions. So we have contacted the state government where we are located here in the southern Brazil. We also have a big non-governmental agency called SEBRAE, who helps about 16 million entrepreneurs in Brazil to improve their businesses. So we are trying to connect the academic knowledge that we are generating with these practical implications for new entrepreneurs. So yes, the idea is to make academia and practical knowledge to converge.
Excellent. Yeah, it's important that we find the applications that the communities can benefit from. There's a question in the chat that I would share with the group about, has the project considered scenarios related to desertification risk or any other type of environmental variables that might be associated with changing climate?
Actually, we include in the model satellite data, and these, for example, this data include the presence of water and these kind of things. But we tend to develop further these variables in the model and investigate more about the geographical role in the results. But for this first draft, we include some variables like vegetation, urbanization, water presence. Yeah, it's not about there's a certification, but it's kind of related.
Okay, so you're capturing some current or some recent land cover ideas. It would be a much more complicated and interesting model to be able to do some scenarios for future, 10, 15, 20 years plus to think about market entry locations given different scenarios for changing variables.
Yeah, in the literature, for example, they mentioned a lot about the role of these climate changes in the business development and success. And this is important to consider. Yeah, I'm from Northeast, and I understand this scenario.
Yeah, it's a very complicated dynamic to be able to make these types of predictions, make them a little more robust and resilient to the changing conditions we know we're experiencing.
One thing I wanted to add to what Bray said, and first, it's been a pleasure to collaborate on this project, but one of our focus was how we can apply this to other developing countries going forward. And particularly from CGS point of view, we are looking into how to apply this from an Indian perspective, because India is also a developing and growing economy. So as one of the next steps of the project or next phases, we are looking into what data we can get for India to replicate much of the work that we have done for iGuide. So that might be another interesting follow-up results that we can share with the group.
Very much. That would be super interesting. And this, of course, is speaking right now is Devika Jain from the Center for Geographical Analysis at Harvard, which is one of the partners on this project, working with iGuide.
Thank you, Devka, for reminding the audience about that. I forgot to mention, and this is a very important feature of the project, the Atlas project. So we are trying to develop it multi-country, multilingual, and reproducible. Pretty much in line with what PGA has been doing at Harvard. So we are trying to continue this path of making the scientific knowledge as reproducible as possible and to help as many people in different countries as possible. Thank you, Devika.
Yeah, I think a big challenge is the data availability is so different in different countries. Like they have so much data for Brazil to replicate even the data for India is one of the big challenge we are seeing in the initial phase of the project. How do we get the same amount of data for India? I think before model application is the data replication limitations that we are seeing.
Yeah, because of these, sorry, Diane, please.
No, please go ahead.
Because of this, we are trying to understand more the theory-driven of selection of the variables to permit the transferability of the model for these other countries. For example, it's not exactly the main variables, but the main dimensions of these variables, for example, related to geographical characteristics or business data, or demographics in general, market variables. We try to make these be applied to other scenarios in general.
That would be something that would be super useful to know what types of proxy variables might be possible to be used in different scenarios where you have either completely absent data or very sparse data.
Mm-hmm.
This is very, please go ahead, Devka. Go ahead.
I was just saying also we will try to apply for another industry because from an Indian perspective, if you see agriculture would be a big one. That would be that how does the small farmers or who want to enter the agriculture market or the local market is more interesting. We focused on beverage, but how this can go to other industry also, not only other nations.
Okay.
Another issue that has been very challenging is how to deal with missing data in a very granular perspective, because we are working in four geographical layers, region, state, city, and census tract. Especially on census tract, there is a lot of heterogeneity in terms of data availability depending on the country. So in Brazil, the more developed states, we do have some granular data. In the less developed, we don't have. I believe this is the same situation in India, right, Devka? And in many developing countries, it's a total different situation if we compare to US and developed countries where the statistical tradition, where there's more money to collect data, the census is maybe stronger and more granular. So we are trying to develop models that work in different places. And this is the lack of granular data is very challenging. So we are trying different techniques to overcome this limitation.
And you had already noted that limitation of using these variables as they are affected by that modifiable aerial unit problem as you're crossing these areas and crossing spatial scales there.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience? I'm glad that the notebook is up there. We're excited to be able to share that with the group. And we're also going to have a presentation by this group at our upcoming iGuide Forum, which is taking place in Chicago in about 10 days or so. So if you might be able to be in Chicago, please, I'm going to put the forum, the iGuide Forum link up here. Just a second, if I can spell it quickly. I don't want to put in the wrong link so quickly. We have workshops available if people are interested. If you might be able to be in that area for Chicago, just a heads up too that we have workshops in which on Monday, August 3rd, which we're making free and open to anyone who's able to be there in Chicago, and you'll be able to understand, get an introduction to the platform where this project's notebook is hosted, and also experiment and learn from some of our other AI models, which are hosted in activities on the platform and have crossed many, many different application areas. Well, thank you very much again for sharing this in the VCO format. I appreciate the time and effort it took to organize your thoughts like this. And we're going to make sure this gets shared widely with a lot of other people with these types of marketing and business-oriented applications, and let them know that the iGuide platform is there to support their ideas as well. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Appreciate your attention. And as I said before, this VCO has been recorded and will be up on our iGuide VCO webpage in just a few days once the files are processed. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, iGuide, for supporting this competition. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. Bye-bye.